Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
To Good Morning Outdoors, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the outdoor hospitality industry. From campgrounds and RV parks to glamping, outdoor resorts, adventure travel, and ecotourism, we'll be discussing all things outdoor travel and hospitality. So join us on Good Morning Outdoors every Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Good morning.
Good morning. This has been a week of travel here at GMH, and for basically, I feel like our whole crew at the GMH side has been out traveling. If folks caught yesterday's GMH Europe segment, Leo was at the Scale Eastern Europe concert. Will has been out this week at the Level Up Women's Conference in Arizona. In the campground side of the business, we've got Waco this week for the Wisconsin Association. The NCA conference is coming up. It's kind of the last conference rotation before I think most of us really gear up and get ready for what hopefully will be a busy summer season coming up in May. So kind of crazy. And I can sense that everybody's out and busy this week traveling. Yeah.
And we've got some sunny weather in upstate New York. So it feels like camping season, and it's right around the corner. So
yeah, finally, we're getting there. And for folks who maybe have just kind of caught the first couple of episodes that we've done the last couple of weeks, just wanted to give people a quick refresher of who we are. I know we've only been on here now. This is week 3. So if you're new here or coming over from the traditional GMH show or the Europe and hotel shows earlier in the week, we're just going to quickly go through a little bit of our intro again. So Matt, why don't you tell folks kind of who you are and what you do?
Awesome. Yes. My name is Matt Whittermore. I am an owner and operator of nearly 500 campsites, and that includes RV sites, tent camping, glamping, and some luxury cabin stays, which have been an exciting part of the business to get into. I have been in commercial real estate finance for a dozen years or longer now. Started in the outdoor hospitality industry almost 4 years ago now, and fell in love with it. Plan on being in the business for the rest of my life. Study the industry every day alongside you, Alex, and have learned a ton, continue to learn a ton, and super grateful to be here and excited to share, this community with everybody.
Yeah, well said. And for folks tuning in live here on the live broadcast, just shoot us a quick comment here. Tell us which platform you're on and where you're tuning in from. We'd love to get some comments today as we go through today's roster of news and hear from you. And then quick background about me. So I'm Alex Burkett. My background in this industry really comes into the form of on-site campground and property operations, as well as on the marketing end as well. I've worked for some industry juggernauts managing properties in multiple states across Ohio, New York, North Carolina, and I've also worked with dozens of properties on the marketing front. So really kind of interesting background here. I know we always say, Matt, we complement each other really well with your real estate and finance background and my property management and marketing background, and hopefully that's conveyed well through the content and discussions we have as well. We agree on a lot and have a lot of good insights, but I think we both kind of approach it from different directions. So, with that being said, we've got our first comment from Donald here, tuning in on Twitter from South Dakota. Donald, appreciate you joining us here today. Wish I could get out to South Dakota. That's one of those have not visited yet. I'm sure it's beautiful, but gotta be one of those we head out to at some point and check out a couple campgrounds there.
Beautiful country.
Yeah, well said. And kind of speaking of an upcoming conference coming up in the western half of the United States, the glamping show registration has opened up recently over this past week. That show takes place in Aurora, Colorado. And it really is kind of the one place where glamping industry professionals can connect. Happens at the end of the month in September 30th through October the 1st. I've had the pleasure of going, I think, the past 2 out of 3 years. I missed last year's, but went to both conferences prior to that. And if you really have any interest in the glamping and lodging side of our business, that is honestly, it's a great show. We have, no direct association with it, but the organizers, David Course, and the new team that are running it there do a fantastic job. So would highly recommend checking that out. That's, glampingshow.us. There's, funny enough, we should talk with Leo and Sarah about they've got the glamping show in the UK is where things kind of got started there, and only recently did it kind of come across the pond in Colorado. So just wanted to kind of mention that as an event happening here coming up. And we've also got, thank you, Erica, for joining us today. Great talking with you last night on the OHI YP call. Appreciate you tuning in from Utah and your great property out there in Salt Lake. So appreciate you tuning in and joining us here on the show today. And then, Matt, we've got some events, kind of coming up in our neck of the woods at our property in the Catskills. Do you want to tell folks about what's going to be happening at Covered Bridge here?
Yeah, and I was going to say, speaking of that, we don't see it on the screen here, but Mike, our good friend Mike Kaufman,
left us some comments.
He commented on Twitter. He replied on Twitter. It doesn't show up in the show, but he's a Catskiller, and he does an awesome newsletter, and we're planning some really fun events with Mike. So that ties into kind of what you teed up there. We have our rustic little campground on a beautiful patch of 26 acres of Catskill wilderness. That's a very special place. We are working on adding some glamping tents and some lodging, planning a long-term, pretty significant development of this property, which is super exciting. And you've contributed a ton of value, Alex, on the marketing side and ops, and have really streamlined things. So we're super excited about what we've got going on there. It's on a famous fly fishing creek. So we've got local brands that we're partnering with in fishing guides and
really bringing the experiences into it, right?
Yes.
It's all about experiential hospitality and what really can we do beyond the campsite.
It really is. So if we have any listeners that are in the New York City area, opening weekend, we open May 1st. Opening weekend, Saturday, May 3rd, we're planning a pretty awesome, fun event. Details still being confirmed, but we've got food and beverage.
We'd love for you to kind of join us for that party.
Yeah. Now. If you're drivable to the Catskills, we're on the southwestern kind of edge of the Catskills in Sullivan County in a town called Livingston Manor. Beautiful, beautiful place. Roughly 2 hours from the George Washington Bridge with no traffic. Probably 2.5 hours with traffic, but we'll have glamping tents. We have campsites. You can bring your RV. We'll have lots of fun stuff going on. So
and I was going to say, it's really a great opportunity if you want us to kind of tour you around the campground, really even just show you what a campground is. If you've got, a little bit of intimidation around that, or you're, just want to check that out, we're happy to do that and kind of show you what it's like to live the day-to-day life of running a campground and what the property's like. And hopefully it'll be a lot of fun with our guests and hope you'll join us. So more info to come on that front, but
we've got a landing page. We'll try and put it in the show notes. I'll post it. Actually, I could probably just post it in the comments here. We'll try that. And
yeah, absolutely. And while Matt's doing that, we'll sort of dive into our first story here today. Speaking kind of on the investment front, we've got some great industry players we're going to be highlighting with some interesting developments happening in the industry. We'll start with our first story highlighting Northgate Resorts looking at opening a new luxury campground and really a huge resort and lodging complex near the Grand Ole Opry and in the Nashville market. Interestingly enough, this story was first published back in 2022, was first announced that Northgate was even considering looking at this property. They'd started talking with the Gleaves family, who owned this humongous piece of acreage, 200 acres. I think it's 15, 20 minutes from the Grand Ole Opry. So enormous tract of land for having that close proximity location to so much great markets. And they'd owned the property for 60 years, and it was really a working farm. And so it was kind of floated and announced that Northgate would be joining and partnering with the Gleaves family to do this development. But just in the past week, we saw really a revitalization of this story, and Northgate put out some press regarding the resort taking shape. They're moving through final site approvals and really looking to make this thing massive. The first phase is set to include 425 campsites, 105 of that being cabins, individual park model cabins, which is a massive undertaking for anybody who knows, that many cabins and that many cleans needed. And then 320 RV sites just in phase one. Matt, this is, if this project does go through and come to life, this is going to be a humongous undertaking. Do you just want to give some folks maybe some background on Northgate, who they are, a little bit of context, and then how you kind of see them approaching this project?
Yeah, this story, it's a fascinating story. It's an incredible project. For a few reasons, I felt it was really relevant to bring up. One, because of who it is, Northgate Resorts. They're pillars of our business. They're an amazing story, longtime family-owned business. They own close to 36 resorts.
I think it's 38 properties at the moment, and they're also the largest Jellystone Park operator in the country.
So this is their wheelhouse: large, high-end, highly amenitized family resorts with mix of RV and lodging. And they're so well accomplished in this space. They're also a super interesting company to study because they've just achieved the vertical integration so well. They do development, they do third-party management, they have developed their own resorts, they operate their own resorts. They are the owners of CampSpot, which is one of the largest technology providers for both camping, OTA, and campground management for campground owners to use as software. They're also in the marketing business. They have their own, it's called White Pine Digital. So flawless execution of the vertical integration, super good, awesome track record, really interesting family story, still privately held, which I think is super impressive in this day and age of, private equity taking over everything and everything getting consolidated. I love to study them and follow along. And then also the resort itself, I think, tells us a lot.
Yeah, agreed.
It represents where this industry is going. We've posted about it recently with, in certain areas, there is a significant amount of new supply coming online. There are questions about oversupply in certain areas. And this goes to show that you need to be super unique. You need to offer something that isn't offered anywhere else. And there's a full spectrum of what you can do there. It can be a super unique location. That's typically what we go for, is irreplaceable views, irreplaceable natural amenities, something that cannot be replicated anywhere else, but pretty rustic campgrounds, not super highly amenitized. This is the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right.
I mean, this is a monster of a project. I think they said there's in future phases, they're also
hotel, apartments, indoor amusement park, restaurant, you heard sort of the housing and residential part of that as well. Hotel plus the campground. I mean, this is multi-phased in terms of the type of lodging that's going to be included. And even just in the initial build out, all of the amenities, as you mentioned, Matt, highly amenitized in fantastic location. But I mean, when you think about a size of a traditional campground, I mean, this is 200 acres. I mean, I feel like, it's sometimes hard to even contextualize how big of a development that is in such a great market like this. So, as you said, this is super unique, and the ability for them to kind of be forward thinking and almost create this little compound where you can live and play. We see a lot of those kind of concepts in these great markets come. And I think this is another one of those where it's like, you can stay in the apartment, stay in the hotel, stay in the campground, do all of the things on the property or on this track, eat, go to the amusement park, do the classic campground activities. But it also provides the ability to go out and go to the Opry House and see Nashville and like do all of the things. So super interesting. Exactly.
Huge project. I would imagine well into the 9 figures probably.
Right. And it seems like, again, they're sort of moving through some site approvals finally, again, after announcing the project first in 2022, where it seems like Northgate is sending out a positive signal that the renderings that they have, the work that's being done is, really moving towards a point where they can actually feel confident about the project. And we'll certainly keep an eye on this as more developments come out, and I'm sure we'll have more to talk about with Northgate, but they would, well considered by many in the outdoor hospitality space to be one of the top players in this resort style campground market.
Absolutely.
So speaking of another big player, we've talked about some different glamping brands over our first couple of weeks, but today we've got a great story highlighting AutoCamp in Lodging Magazine. AutoCamp recently announced their 4th California hotel in the Sequoia, California area. This is located just only about 15 minutes from Sequoia National Park. AutoCamp traditionally is really known for their Airstream units. They've got a great partnership with them on the RV front for folks who want to stay that and get that classic Airstream nostalgia and camping feel. They've also got cabins and base camps at most of their properties, and very much the high-end glamping in some great markets. But more recently, with this announcement in Sequoia, this is really much more lodging focused. They bring in the hotel rooms with queen and king size beds. It kind of has that outdoorsy, rustic feel still to the hotel, but very much traditional lodging with normal beds and linen service and that kind of thing. And this news really comes after an announcement in not too long ago where AutoCamp announced their partnership with Hilton. So we see them having the brand partnership on the hotel side. And then obviously with this announcement of the new location in Sequoia with the hotel, we see much more of this crossing of boundaries between what most people would say is, well, I do campgrounds or I do outdoor hospitality. And then folks on the other end saying, well, I do traditional hospitality and hotels. And now I think those lines are starting to blur a little bit. And we see even, Hilton come out and say that half of their guests have responded and said they want to have more outdoors and adventurous travel. And I think the partnership with AutoCamp and great new locations like this really kind of sets us up for the new frontier.
Well said. I love this brand. It's so cool.
You've stayed there before, right?
No, I've visited a few locations, but I have not stayed there. I do have a gift card. I have not.
That's it. Waiting.
Yes.
Stay pending. We'll get back to you after that after the visit happens.
So yes, I will be staying there. And it was kind of striking gold with the agreement with Airstream to become an exclusive partner. It's just so iconic. They're so cool looking.
It's that classic metal exterior. It takes you back to that time, and the inside is so sleek and modern. But there's just something about Airstreams too that it's just that classic campground nostalgia.
And they have all custom. They came up with a custom Airstream design. It's not. I believe it's a 31-foot model that is not available to consumers.
Traditional is like 28 or 30. So probably a little bit more room on the lodging side.
Right. And the interior's entirely custom. I think I wrote about this, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but the numbers with these resorts are eye-popping, because if you buy the 30, I think there's a 30 or a 32-foot Airstream.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
that's kind of the classic. I think even the smallest of small Airstreams starts at like $70,000.
Right.
I mean, but to say that they're well built, it's a great exterior. Obviously, all of that kind of polished metal exterior and really well built. But not exactly your entry RV point for a lot of folks in the industry.
No.
Typically Airstream is something that you would aspire to get to at some point in your journey, starting at a smaller travel trailer or a pop-up and working your way up to one of these higher end brands.
This is what the Airstream Classic travel trailer, which is, see how many feet it is. It is,
yeah, I think it's
28 to 33 feet. It starts at $179,000. This always blew my mind when I was studying AutoCamp, and they're doing a great job. They secured a major years ago. They were one of the first ones with Whitman Peterson. Great company, longtime players in the hospitality space and travel and leisure. I think it was $115 million that they secured to grow their locations, which congratulations to them on the new Sequoia location. The numbers are crazy though. $179,000. We're starting there
per unit.
And then it's a completely custom interior. A lot more plush and high end.
Yeah, I would highly recommend check out the new landing page that AutoCamp has for their Sequoia location. I wish we had some photos to put up on the screen for folks viewing live. They're absolutely gorgeous, from the lobby to the hotel rooms to the inside of these units.
Yeah.
And then to top it off, being only 15 minutes from Sequoia National Park is amazing.
And I think the clubhouses and the lodges that they build they're amazing. They're they're like museum quality construction, huge, like marble floors, marble bathrooms, no, expenses, no object in developing these properties to the highest level of quality.
Well, and I was going to add a note on both. We've seen it both in the first story we covered today with Northgate, and then here in the AutoCamp story. Very selective in terms of the locations that these big players are picking. AutoCamp has always been known to, they don't have a ton of locations, but the locations they do have are built out like no other, and they're in these fantastic markets. I mean, Sequoia for so many it's a bucket list destination. It's one of those, we've talked about national parks in our last episode, and folks wanting to go out there and do the adventure travel. They want to go to Sequoia all day and do great adventures and hiking and backpacking and trekking, and then come back to the property or the resort and stay in a great Airstream or in a nice bed and get great linen service. And I think folks in the outdoor hospitality space are kind of finding their footing with that now. And there's more people, I think, in the market who recognize the opportunity there between experiences, but still having a really nice high-end product in great markets, whether that's just location in Nashville with Northgate, or here where it's location to nature with AutoCamp in Sequoia. So I think we're really seeing this mix and blend of lodging, traditional campgrounds, traditional hospitality, and experiences really come together with these two great projects. And I think campers are really responding.
And interesting to note too, so that this is they have 9 locations. They have one listed as coming soon in Texas Hill Country. And they've
another great market.
Yep. They've also launched a separate concept called Field Station, which is they're acquiring hotels and motels and kind of
giving them new life
along the lines of a Trailborn, who was just acquired by Marriott, or lodge camps, or jet hospitality. That's kind of a whole separate niche of like, it's traditional hospitality. It's a hotel or a motel that's getting acquired and completely revamped and getting that outdoor spin, which we fully consider outdoor hospitality. It's near a national park. You can bring your muddy gear inside and nobody's going to give you a sideways look.
That's right.
So huge fans of what's happening in the market. AutoCamp, they are certainly pioneers, have built an iconic brand. So kudos to them.
Absolutely. And I think, campers are really responding to the concept, and definitely made my list as a bucket list item. Got to go check out that location. Being on the Northeast, we don't get out West enough. At least I don't. So from some of our folks tuning in South Dakota and Utah and Sequoia, it's like I'm getting the itch to head out West. I don't know about you, Matt.
Always.
And so, yeah, sort of speaking of camping and consumer behavior and folks responding, our next story comes courtesy of the Dyrt. And Matt, why don't you just give folks, before we go into a little bit on their 2025 camping report and consumer trends, what is the Dyrt for folks who don't know about it, and how do you see their place in the industry?
So the Dyrt, another really cool brand. They have developed a wonderful, not even corner of the market. They're a huge player in the market. There's a few kind of OTAs in the space that have done really well. We mentioned one, Camp Spot. I wrote about Hip Camp recently.
Right.
The Dyrt has taken a different approach to really focus on user generated data and reviews, kind of becoming the Yelp, if you will, of the camping industry. They've gamified the process to really promote adoption and participation and engagement, and it's taken off like wildfire. They raised a bunch of money from private equity. They've grown. They put out these awesome reports that we'll dive into, and they have such a wide reach that it's a really interesting glimpse into how the camping consumer makes decisions and behaves and what they're experiencing, probably most importantly of all. So I think with that, let's dive into some of the data.
Yeah, well said. Sarah Smith and Kevin Long and what they've built there is fascinating and incredible. And they really are the number one platform for campground reviews and responses, just by the numbers in general. So in this report that was compiled, the Dyrt really mentioned collecting information from 3 different groups. They have been highlighting, obviously, their campground community, but they've also been talking with property owners and managers as well to really add that perspective into the report and the data. They, as you mentioned, Matt, have some great reach and have partnered with actually Toyota to release their 2025 campground report. This is a couple of weeks old now, but still we think relevant as we are about to really head into the thick of the summer season here in the hospitality industry. And I think I'll point out a couple of stats that we can talk through that I think give us a good sense of what the consumer behavior is looking like. So I'll read through some stats here, Matt, and then why don't we can chat through them. In this report, and would highly recommend, this is a 17-page document filled with some amazing information on regionalities, demographics, what type of units folks are using, what sort of booking velocity and numbers the Dyrt is seeing from their end. So a lot of really great stuff. We could probably cover this in segments for weeks here on the show, but I'm going to pull out some things that I found that were interesting. The Dyrt found that more than half of all campers in their report, 53.4%, preferred camping in an RV or a trailer. And what was kind of interesting and unique to me was that it was only 53%. That means 47% of campers in the Dyrt report wanted to try camping in another facet, whether that's glamping, tents, some other way. And I think it's again interesting to sort of see the split there where, call it a decade ago, if not more, that number might have been up at 70, 80, 90% of folks who went camping did it in an RV or maybe they did it in a tent, but was kind of surprised to see that number only at 53%. Campers spent last year about 12 nights a year on average booking reservations. That was the average number of days that folks camped. And over 50% of folks who camped did it with pets. Another sort of interesting note on the cancellation side, and we've heard a lot of news around Canadian reservations getting canceled for some folks, more of in border states. Only about 58.9% of all campers used their reservations in 2023. That number did raise to 70% last year, but that means basically three out of every 10 reservations that were made at a campground got canceled or got unused. So we have highlighted some great stories and great markets, and sometimes that finding reservations at those places can be tricky and can be difficult. So interesting to see folks having maybe aspirations to go camping and making reservations, but 3 out of every 10 don't actually end up taking that trip like they expected, and those bookings get canceled. So Matt, why don't you take one or any of those stats that I mentioned and let's talk through it a little bit.
Yeah, I had a couple takeaways myself. I mean, we see it as operators that not everybody always shows up. I've always attributed it to the fact that it's not the most expensive way to vacation. So,
right.
So, like we have it all the time. Oh, I can't make it. Can we switch the reservation? Yeah, happy to accommodate that. But a lot of people just write it off. They don't think it's worth their time to call, or they think we're not going to accommodate. Maybe, I don't know. But we see it all the time. People no show. And that's what I've always kind of thought is, it's a couple $100. Maybe it's not enough for people to really like dig in and make sure they're getting value out of that chunk of money that they're spending. Also, my takeaway from this document, this report, was highlighting kind of the regionality of we've talked about this on prior episodes, and the regionality of different behaviors, the experience of campsite booking, and the challenges of trying to find the campsite you want for the dates that you want. It's still a challenge for people. I think that tends to follow where camping on public land is more popular in the West. They have much better, on average, I'd say much better inventory and supply of public campsites. Public campsites in the West are just nicer. Big expansive views, cool locations and whatnot. So that's where people experience the most difficulty. It was 66.1% of campers
finding reservations. Yeah. Yep. And we hear that a lot. We've, talked national parks now in some of the last couple of episodes, and for years it has been difficult for people to find at some of the best locations, kind of public or private in a lot of ways. If you want 4th of July, if you want Memorial Day, if you want, call it June through August, you're typically booking about a year out or a couple of years out. And we've seen some great companies from Harvest Host to others even create some tools that actually now will watch for cancellations at national parks or state parks. And you can set alerts for specific dates and specific locations where you actually get notified if a cancellation occurs. So you can actually go on and make that reservation. So interesting to see how I think there's more of a desire to solve that problem with so many reservations getting unused. And as you said, based on the region, that supply and demand imbalance is real. And a lot of campers feel that.
Well said. Totally agree. And I think in the Northeast, we experienced the same thing, but it's for different reasons, where there's just so much population in the Northeast, and the supply of private or public campsites is just relative to the amount of population is, there's an imbalance there. So,
right.
Really interesting. Love digging into these reports. It just gives us another opportunity to learn about our guests and work to provide a better guest experience.
Well said. And then, to wrap up today's show, we're going to touch on a little bit of data coming from the RV side of the industry with RV shipments forecasted. The spring edition of the quarterly forecast prepared by ITR Economics for RVIA. That would be the RV Industry Association that represents all of the OEMs, the manufacturers, all of the folks in the RV industry. They are projecting a little bit of a modest increase for 2025. Median number of RVs forecasted to hit the market is right at about 350,000. And I'm going to put on screen here this table from this report that RVIA has that shows some historical data for folks watching this on video. They take it all the way from 1980 up until really today in 2024. You can see really the outlier years in the COVID bubble. We saw shipments get up to 600,000, which we were kind of on this upward growth trend from about 1980 all the way up until 2019, 2020. And we've seen a bit of a softening, if you will, back to kind of a normal range. Obviously, as stated, there's going to be a little bit of moderate growth projected for this year compared to last. Towable units are expected to grow about 4.8%, motorhomes about 5.5%. So yeah, really, really interesting to kind of see how that data comes. Matt, do you have any insight on either the historical data or the projection for this year?
I love looking at this chart. I think it gives you so much context and insight into how the industry has changed. I think we have some skeptics in the industry or outsiders to the industry that say things along the lines of, "Oh, camping is just a COVID boom industry." I mean, we certainly saw a boom, but if you look at the data from 1980 to 2006, it's a pretty steady.
Right, we're basically
trend.
back, and we're basically back at like 2014, 2015 levels. Like as you said, if you look at the basis has been raised so much as to what we're kind of expecting the floor to be in a lot of ways.
Right. And so to me, this was the kind of data that made me comfortable as an outsider becoming an owner and operator in this space, was really taking a step back and looking at the last, several decades worth of data at the micro level of the campground itself and the macro level of this campground has been full since 1960. It's seasonal. The same people come back every year. And then you look at the RV sales, there's been a solid uptick and upward trend of people returning to the outdoors. We see what happened in the Great Recession. And from 2006 to 2009, RV sales got cut in half from roughly 350,000 to
down to their lowest ever. Yeah,
165,000 in 2009. Right. But then it jumped back up and we got back onto our upward trend. And there was some economic uncertainty in 2018, 2019. Sales dipped, and then obviously we know what happened in 2020. Sales still went up from 2019 to 2020. They exploded in 2021 after everyone sat around from March 2020 in their house, becoming miserable. Everybody said, "I want to go outside. I want some fresh air." This camping thing, right or wrong, we got this idea that, being outside is safer, social distancing is easier when you're camping, and things just exploded in 2021, up to 600,000 RVs sold in 2021. And then, back to some economic uncertainty. First-time campers bought the RV and went RVing and decided they didn't like it. We know camping is not for everyone. So sales went back down to that 500,000 level. And then they absolutely plummeted from 2022 to 2023, went from 500,000-ish to around 300,000. And now we're back on another kind of uptick here. And I've had people come and say, "Ooh, that's a scary business to be in, campgrounds and RV parks. Those RV shipments are plummeting." And I've always just said, I don't think those people have a real understanding of how the business works, because I think we talked about last episode or 2 episodes ago that same industry, RVIA, they estimate that there's 2.1 million campsites across the country. That blows my mind that 600,000 RVs can sell in the US. That's such a huge chunk of the corresponding RV site inventory and supply that, even for you to tell me that 10 or 15% ratio of RV to campsite supply sells every year, that's a hugely encouraging number. That every year, those are a lot of those people are upgrading RVs, but those are some new RV buyers. There's a steady inflow of new RVs and new RVers that need to find a place to camp and put their RV. So I love it. I love looking at this data.
Well said. And to sort of clarify on the numbers too, this is the projected wholesale shipments for retail registration, but I think it's still a positive sign in the sense that dealers are signaling that they're looking to buy more, about 5% more than last year. And so if they're seeing a little bit of an uptick of consumer demand on their side, where folks are coming in with highly requested units across some of the great OEMs and manufacturers. It's a great sense for how the industry is actually doing. The RV industry relies a lot on its large dealership groups, from Camping World to Blue Compass to Funtown to dozens of others, that really give a sense of what consumer demand is like in great markets across the country. So really great sign of what those wholesale shipments and retail registrations are going to look like. And yeah, will be fascinating to see if how we piece apart these quarterly results and what the end of the year really looks like. So a lot of great information covered today with some great data, some exciting industry players from Northgate and AutoCamp. Really appreciate everybody who tuned in and commented where they were from. I've still got that Western travel bug, man. I'm thinking about South Dakota and Utah now. Donald, Erica, appreciate you guys tuning in and letting us know that's where you're from. As a reminder, this show is live here every Thursday morning. We would love to answer any questions, comments, get information from you on what topics we should cover. I'm going to flash the email here up on screen. If you've got some information about a story or some great industry news you want us to cover, please drop us a line. We'd be happy to cover it and give you our spin on what's happening in the industry and the news. And hope you'll join us again here next week. We will be at some of our properties here this next week, so highly recommend you connect with us on social media if you want to get more of a behind the scenes or down to earth look at what it's like operating some of these assets. And we'll be sharing more in-depth breakdowns of some of the news we cover on the show on social media, and hope you'll join us. We work to build the community. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.